Protocol is a piece of middleware that sits in between applications built on the blockchain and the storage mechanisms that are used to capture and hold the data they produce.
Hi, I'm Ross Gates from Alphagrowth. Today we're at the Crypto Invest Summit in LA, and I'm here with Evin from the Stow Protocol at Consensus. Evin, how's it going?
I'm glad to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. So tell me, what is the Stow Protocol and how is it changing the blockchain space?
So the Stow Protocol is a piece of middleware that sits in between applications built on the blockchain and the storage mechanisms that are used to capture and hold the data they produce. So when we use applications today, we create data that describes the actions we take, so whether we like a picture on Instagram or we answer a message on Facebook, and that data, as a result of our action, is then captured by the third-party proprietary storage systems owned by Instagram, Facebook, Amazon, you name it. What this protocol does is it scoots in the middle of the applications we use and the storage mechanisms that capture our data, so that when we use applications built on the Ethereum blockchain, our protocol will allow us to be the custodians and owners of the data we generate, so that instead of Instagram owning information that we create when we're using our app, instead we will own that information. We'll grant Instagram the right to use it because they need it for their app, and we also will have the ability to share it with whoever else we want under whatever terms we determine.
So you say it's middleware because it's between the front end and the database, but it sounds like it's just replacing the database. Like you're putting it in this new spot and then you're renting it to Instagram so that Instagram can put it in its database?
Kind of. So if you think about storage and identity in applications, it's sort of like a sandwich. So let's start at the moment you pick up your phone to use a decentralized application on the Ethereum blockchain,
yes.
Right? You want to use your first dApp on your phone. So you open up your phone, you pick it up, you open up that dApp, and you will probably use an identity, a pseudonymous identity, to represent yourself on that app. So the two layers between you and that app experience are the device you're using and the identity that you're using to represent yourself in that digital space.
Gotcha.
So then you hit the protocol that's behind that dApp. So what is important about the protocol on that front end is that any identity solution can be your avatar in this dApp universe. So when you use our protocol, so that could be MetaMask, it could be Uport, it could be Evernym, you name it. And then when we think about the other side, so what happens to the data once we store it, it's similarly interoperable. So a developer could choose to use Amazon Web Services as a centralized data repository, or they could use StoreJ, BlueZell, IPFS, Filecoin, or any distributed system. So instead of replacing that backend storage, instead the Stow Protocol is a data traffic cop that controls how data moves from an application into storage and back.
But does it also simplify what I need to know? Do I need to know how MetaMask works? Or
Nope.
will it automatically just fill that identity from your platform into MetaMask, it goes where it needs to go?
So that's the UI objective that we are working toward. And we're currently working with a bunch of UX researchers to figure out how can we abstract away the click fest that is MetaMask
Yes.
in all of our user experiences. So when we think about the identity platforms like MetaMask that we use right now, they're mostly built in a way that is geared toward developers and serving developers as they create these end user experiences. So if I'm a dev and I'm building a decentralized application with MetaMask, I want to be able to see every single transaction because I need that level of transparency. But if you're my mom and you're trying to use an application, you better believe she doesn't need to know the cost of each transaction.
Not that she doesn't need to know,
she doesn't
want to know.
Exactly.
She doesn't want to be overwhelmed with like, what does this even mean? It's like, don't worry about it, Mom, this is the internet.
Exactly, and so what our team is trying to do is think about not only our direct users, who are the developers building on top of this protocol, but our indirect users who have to live with the world created by those devs. And so if we don't equip developers with UI that abstracts away the complexity of what they build, then we will do them a disservice because they won't be able to serve the needs of their end users as well.
Gotcha. So where are you right now in your development process? And what's your next big milestone?
Sure. So we launched on testnet with our core protocol on June 6th of this year, which is very exciting.
Nice.
We are looking forward to a December launch on mainnet. We've also, by accident, actually built a decentralized application that we're calling a disintermediated marketplace. So basically an eBay for data with no central authorities. So allowing individuals and organizations to buy and sell data on an open marketplace with no central intermediary. The way we accidentally came across this is that we were just building a random dApp for fun to test whether the underlying protocol worked. And then the next day we told our team, our colleagues about what we had created, this disintermediated marketplace, and immediately people started asking if they could license it. And so we have created this secondary product that we're really excited to bring to market later this year that will allow organizations to monetize latent data assets that are just sitting around. So if you can imagine organizations, everyone from medical data companies and aggregators like electronic health records to professional sports leagues interested in making data available for fantasy and gambling.
It sounds like the two pair very well together because the middleware is actually what captures that data, and then the second app is what lets you monetize that data.
Exactly. So our underlying protocol, that middleware, that core set of smart contracts and JavaScript wrapped around it, is available entirely free and open source. So we see it as a way to shortcut the expertise required to build on the Ethereum platform. So if you use our protocol and you're an application developer, you don't have to know Solidity, you don't have to know cryptography, and you don't have to know anything about crypto economics to build on the Ethereum platform, which are all required today.
And that's December. So December...
That'll be on mainnet.
It'll be on mainnet. You can make your dApp. You can plug it right in. You don't have to know all of that cryptography on the back end. And then next year, after you've built your dApp and you've collected all this data, you'll be able to sell it.
Exactly.
Awesome. This is great. And where can they go to find that information? Just consensus.net or?
Absolutely. You can find it through consensus.net. You can also check us out on the Consensus GitHub. All of our repos are free and open source and have lots of supporting documentation. So if anyone encounters that and has any questions, I encourage you to reach out directly to us. We have a 48-hour response policy, so we try to get back with not only how we're going to address bugs that other people find, but making sure that all of the members of our community feel that their questions will be answered and they'll be heard. Because at the end of the day, the only reason we do this is to empower developers.
Exactly. It's great. Thank you. Can't wait to see where it goes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.